Hello, MJ7NLK here and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are looking at the Thunderpole TX, which is the latest generation of handheld CB radio, which also includes the noise reduction circuit. We will be comparing this radio to the existing champion, the infamous President Randy 3, to see if the newcomer can equal or even beat it. We will also be looking at two other handhelds, the PNI Escort HP82 and the Jopix CB-514, which appear to be the same radio as the TX. We will be comparing each package, the accessories and the price to see which is the best value, and if there are any meaningful differences between them. The Thunderpole TX comes in at around £105, but it doesn't come with the vehicle adapter, which is available as an optional extra at an additional £15. So all in, with vehicle adapter, £120. The PNI Escort comes in at around £100, and that's the same as the Jopix CB-514, but they both come with the vehicle adapter. The President Randy 3, on the other hand, costs around £210. Twice the price, but it is one hell of a radio. Coming up in this video, unboxing and first look, how does it compare to the PNI and Jopix, comparison to the Randy 3, general radio operation, power tests, PC software and expansion options. It's all in here, so do stick around, but before we dive in, let's have a look at some CB radio news. President have just announced a new handheld CB radio, the President Jerry. Now it looks just like the Randy 3 and it shares the same outer casing, and it is a price reduced version of the Randy 3, presumably to compete with the extremely popular Thunderpole TX on price. I have one on order, but the main features that they have removed compared to the Randy 3 are: it only has a single colour display, orange only I'm afraid, no CTCSS or DCS tones and codes, and there is no mains charger in the box. However, it does appear to come with the vehicle adapter kit, just like the Randy 3 does. It also doesn't come with NRC, which is a big loss and is expected to cost around £140. President, we want NRC in these handhelds. Right, back to the Thunderpole. The main features of this radio are AM/FM including all European norms and FM UK. The frequency range is 26.690 to 27.99125 MHz. A 1800 mAh battery, 40 hours standby and 4 hours talk time is quoted. Maximum power draw is 1.3 amps. It has the noise reduction circuit, USB-C charging port, headphone and microphone ports, BNC antenna, high and low power settings 4 watts and 1 watt, Vox and scan mode, automatic squelch control, dual watch, key beep and of course Roger beep, 4 different display layouts, and it weighs 365 grams including the antenna and battery. Before we continue, a quick message from this video's sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay are makers of prototype PCBs of all kinds. They also offer services like PCB assembly, CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication and injection moulding. Manufacturing times are exceptionally quick and delivery is super fast. I have used their services on many occasions and PCBWay get an NLK-Media thumbs up for quality and service. Check out their website pcbway.com for more information or follow the link in the video's description. Thank you PCBWay for your kind support. Taking a quick look over the box. Well, it's certainly a lot nicer presentation than the Radio Oddity CB500's brown box that appeared in the last video, so that's good. On the front of the box it says 27 MHz CB radio, but rest assured the frequency range is 26.690 MHz to 27.99125 MHz out of the box. On the right hand side here it says multi-standard, so that supports all European norms including FM UK. It's programmable, so we'll have a look at that a bit later on, and it's a portable transceiver. Moving to the back of the box, Lots of key features shown here. The ones that I'm most interested in really are NRC, and I'd like to have a look at the 4 different LCD display options. The box includes everything you need except for a programming cable, and we have one here which should do for the radio. And it does not come with the car kit that is sold as an optional extra. I note on the other radios they may, and we'll have a look at this shortly, they may come with the car kit included. It says here on the back of the box that it's imported from China by Thunderpole, who are based in Northampton in England, and according to the sign outside of their building, they are trucking brilliant. The box does say here, includes, and I'm really hoping that this optional extra saucy lady is also included in the box. Let's hope that I'm not disappointed. Let's now take a quick look at the PNI and Jopix boxes, and we'll see if they are very similar. Well, here is the PNI Escort HP82. Let's have a look at the front of this box. Now you can see with the radio here that it is not identical. There are some button differences, but it is the same shell. More or less the same information is displayed on the front of the box. We have NRC on this version, which is excellent, and it also includes the car kit, which is superb. You do not have to buy that as an extra. Now, having a look at the back of the box, not a great deal to show on here, and very sadly, no optional extra saucy lady. Moving on to the Jopix. Here is the CB-514, which looks absolutely identical to the Escort HP82. Multi-Norma written on the front of the box, CB27 transceiver. Now there's nothing on the underside of this box, but on the side here it does confirm that the car kit is included. So for both of these versions of the radio, the Jopix and the PNI Escort HP82, you get the car kit. With the Thunderpole, you have to stomp up a little bit more cash to buy that. So that may help you in your purchasing decisions, depending on how these radios compare when we unbox them. What is it with CB radios and the names that they use for these handhelds? So based on the radios I have on my desk, I basically have a randy Thunderpole looking for an Escort. I mean, come on, Jopix, join the party. You could do so much better than CB-514. What about the Jopix Crimson Crowbar or the Jopix Throbbing Johnson? Come on, step up to the plate. You can do an awful lot better. So let's see what you get inside the box. Well, we appear to have lots of other boxes. Antenna. The radio itself. An accessories pouch. And there is something else in here. Probably the charger. So let's have a look through these. We have the antenna. We'll compare that to the other radios shortly. Let's have a look in here. It's the wall wart. And this one is 5 volt, 2 amp. Be interesting to see if it's the identical one to the other radios. And we have a USB-C to USB-A connector cable. Inside this box, we have a user manual, which is very, very thin, but should have enough information to get you going with the radio. We have a belt clip, which, yeah, it's okay. A little bit flimsy, but it will do the job. And we have some sort of mounting bracket. So this must stick to a surface, potentially a dashboard, and then you'd use this with this screw to attach to the back of the radio to effectively slide the radio in as a holder. Don't think I'll be using that. And then the radio itself, let's take a look at that. Let me just grab my Randy. Here we go. We have the Randy Thunderpole. We have them here. Very, very similar. Similar size, similar screen size, similar button layout. I mean, it really is a very, very similar looking device. The Thunderpole is a bit more boxy. The Randy is a little bit more rounded. But they both do have an excellent feel. I mean, this does feel like a very solid radio, just as the Randy does. So having a quick look round the radio itself, on this side we have the PTT, we have what looks like a low and high power button, two potentially programmable buttons. We'll have a look and see what those do. We have a screwable door for where the battery will go, or is probably still, is it actually in there. On this side we have the headphone microphone socket, which the programming cable can go in. And at the bottom here we have the charging socket, if I can get it open, which I am struggling with. There we go. And it's the USB-C charging socket. And nice that it's got these waterproof plugs. On the bottom of the radio, it is very, very similar to the Randy. And we have the pogo pins, although this one has a screw fit where the Randy is just a clip fit. The antenna connector is a BNC on the top, which is different to the Randy. But all in all, it feels like a nice, solid little radio. Now let's compare it and see what we get in the box for the PNI. So I've laid out all of the bits that you get with the Thunderpole on the left, and let's have a look and see what we get with the PNI Escort HP82. Inside the box, we have a much more substantial user manual and what looks like some stickers in the back. We get the same clip adapter that we got with the Thunderpole. What looks like the same antenna. The radio itself, we'll have a look at that later. And that comes with the clip attached already. The same USB-C to USB-A cable. And under this plastic insert, we have the wall wart. But unfortunately with my radio, this is the European wall wart rather than the UK. However, they do look like they're made by the same manufacturer, and they do look pretty much the same. And we get the car kit and the same clip that you can put the radio on. So the car kit is a screw-in. It will clip here into the base of the radio and then screw in, and the pogo pins will attach. And on this end we have the cigarette lighter accessories socket power, and we have the SO239 connector for a PL259 to plug into. So that's the HP Escort. Let's take a look at the Jopix. So as before, laid out on the left for the PNI, and let's get into the Jopix. Okay, well, we have the user manual, which is more substantial than the Thunderpole, but not quite as thick as the PNI. We have the same packaging, it appears, as we had with the Thunderpole, just in a different box. Exactly the same boxes. Just going to get all these bits out. So we have the... Let's look at the radio in a minute. We have the antenna, and can you believe it? It's exactly the same as the other two. We should have the wall wart in here, but is it the European one or is it the UK one. Oh dear. So we have the European wallwart, and it is identical to that one there. The same cable, same antenna, and what do we get in here? Let's have a little look. Okay, belt clip. We get the same car adapter and the radio. However, we don't seem to get the sticky clip or the little packet that we can clip, put a little clip on the back of the radio. Okay, they certainly do look absolutely identical in every way, shape or form, but we will have a look at those later. This one does have Jopix written on it, and this one can't really see. My eyesight's terrible, but this one is branded to Jopix. Okay, so that's the three of them unboxed. Let's take a closer look at the radios side by side. So comparing these three radios, and of course I put my Randy in here for reference. The antennas are BNC connector, and each of the antennas is identical. The Randy, however, uses a TNC connection type on the antenna. The Thunderpole has a different button layout to the PNI and the Jopix. The PNI Escort and the Jopix are absolutely identical. In every way, shape and form on the outside, these radios are the same. The Thunderpole, however, has decided to move all the buttons around for some reason. They've swapped the dual watch and automatic squelch control. Those are swapped. NRC has been moved here. The AM/FM band button is called mode band on the Thunderpole. We don't seem to have an LCR button, and LCR on these radios is supposed to take you back to the last channel that you operated on. That appears to be missing from here. And we have the lock button on the NRC, and it's on the Vox button on the Thunderpole. So they've moved all the buttons around. Now let's turn them on and see what they're like at boot up and see what the displays are like. Okay, we get a little jingle on the Thunderpole. The same jingle on the PNI Escort. And again, the same jingle on the Jopix. And you can see that the screen on the PNI Escort and the Jopix is absolutely identical. Everything is in the same place. But on the Thunderpole, it is different. They have altered the way the screen looks and the layout. Now, there are 4 different layout versions that they've made available on the radio, and we'll have a look at those a little bit later on. So let's compare these two radios, the Thunderpole and the President Randy 3, and see how they perform on a channel scan test. So on the Thunderpole, you have to hold down the scan button for 3 seconds for it to start, and on the Randy it's a single press. So I'll do my best to get them both going at the same time. So they're now both scanning, and you can see that the Thunderpole is substantially faster when scanning channels than the Randy, and I shall use another Randy to effectively break that scan. Okay, the Thunderpole's got it, and the Randy's got it. So the Thunderpole seems to be a lot quicker in scanning through the channels than the Randy is. So the menu system on here is incredibly simple. You have key beep on and off, Vox levels, which you can set with the up and down arrows. You have Roger beep on and off, which of course you will always have on. Then you have high and low power, and you have the 4 different display options. 2, 3, 4, and then back to display 1, which I think is the nicer of the 4 potential options. And that's it. There's no other menu options in the general menu. If you want to set your mode, you can cycle between AM, FM and FM UK if you've set this to the UK mode. If you press and hold the mode button, it will flash UK, and you can then set it to CE, EU, INDE, I2, I0, PL and back to UK, and then you just push the band button again. So to switch norms is very, very simple, and then we can switch between EU FM and AM, which is what we use, and UK FM 40, which we also use. So that's nice and simple to see. The button on the lower left here switches it to monitor, and then back to automatic squelch control. If you push and hold the automatic squelch control, it will switch to squelch, and then if you single press it again, you can set your relevant squelch level, and then just push and hold to switch back to automatic squelch control. You have your dual watch, which is switching between 1 and 9 here, which is very, very fast. NRC, that turns noise reduction on and turns it off. I don't see any settings for being able to control noise reduction on TX and RX. Then we have the PTT button. We have another button here which doesn't seem to do anything. I can't find any way of controlling that. Maybe there is something in the software to control that second button. And you have your emergency channel 9 and 19, and then back to the channel you're on. Long press to scan. If you long press the Vox key, then the radio will effectively lock, and now buttons won't do anything, and then you can push and hold again to unlock. It's an extremely simple radio to operate. So in order to wideband the radio, it's really quite simple to do. You hold the PTT button on the side, you hold the Vox button, and you turn the radio on at the same time. And then you're presented with different table options. And this Thunderpole has 8 tables that you can pick from, and we'll run through what they are in a moment. Now the PNI Escort, this one exactly the same, PTT but function button and turn the radio on. And this one has 6 tables. It does not have tables 7 and 8, but we'll cover that in a moment as to what those tables are. So table 1 is the table that's used with all of the norms on this button and is how it is out the box. Table 2 is widebanding the radio, which gives you 10 blocks A through L. There are no alpha channels here, by the way, so you cannot get alpha channels when widebanded. And table 2 covers 25.615 to 30.105. And then table 3 is your 5 kHz decrement, your T0 channels if you're familiar with a Randy. And it's exactly the same as table 2, but 5 kHz behind. And then you have table 4, which is BR, and that is assumed to be Brazil, which is 80 channels from 26.965 to 27.855 AM FM. And then you have table 5, which is AU, AM and NZ, which is assumed to be Australia and New Zealand. And you have table 6, which is TA to TE and TA to TF. So I don't know what table 6 is, but it may be Thailand or something like that. But the channel numbers seem to move all over the place. And then channel 7 and channel 8 is the US and Canada, or table. So if I set it to table 7, then it will have the same channels as the CE block, but effectively it will just say US, AM, FM. But you don't get that on the PNI. Now there are some additional options here which you can set. You've got a timeout timer, which is PTT menu and power on, and it will say timeout timer, but there doesn't seem to be a way to actually set that within the buttons. And then you also have a factory reset, which is done by PTT SQ and turning the radio on, and this says version 02 software, and it's now completely reset the radio to its factory settings. Now those options are also available on the PNI Escort. What you do on here for your timeout timer is PTT AM FM and turn on timeout timer, and then I think if you want to reset the device, it is the SQ button and turn on, and this one has software version V0. So the same options are available on both, but it looks like the Thunderpole has a couple of extra options to display US and CA on the screen, so they must be planning to sell the radio in that area. So let's wideband this now and turn it to table 2, and then you just turn the radio off and turn it back on. And once the radio is started, you'll see RA is displayed in the band. And if we push and hold the mode button, it will start flashing, and you can then cycle through your different band blocks, D, E, F, G, H, I, and L. So the highest frequency here on L, if we go to channel 40, went a little bit too far there. If we go to 40 on RL is 30.1050. If we were to wideband the radio to table 3, which is for places like Poland, and we turn this on, we should see PL, which we do, and then we can set this. So we're a PA and then through to PL. So the highest is 30.100. Hence the 5 kilohertz decrement. So lovely and simple, nice and easy to do, and you can switch between them just by pushing buttons. One thing to note on the widebanding, on the Jopix, if I reset this radio to default, it says V00 for the software version of this radio, and this was V1 and this was V2, I believe. This does not have the table option for widebanding. So if I hold PTT function and turn this on, it doesn't do anything. So you can do the reset and the timeout, but you cannot, through any of the button combinations, get to the table selection option on the Jopix. Now, it might be that this can be done via the programming cable. We'll have to have a look at that in the next section. But there may be differences in the software versions between the radios 0, 1 and 2. Depending on which one you get and what software version it's running, you may not be able to access that option. Next, we're doing a power test on the Thunderpole, and we are on channel 20 FM UK in high power mode, and we are getting about 3.6 watts in high power mode. If we switch to low power, about 1.75 watts in low power. Let's go over to AM. In high power mode, now there is background noise here, so if we're doing a carrier test, it will be picking up some of the background, so it may be slightly higher than you would expect. So that's registering at about 4.5 watts on high power. In low power, just under 2 watts there. So high power with a tone, let's test that. About 12 watts. And if we go to low power, about 5.5 watts there. So that takes us through the standard power settings. One thing I find a little annoying on the Thunderpole is that you have to press and hold the power button to switch between low and high, and the display button, the second of the command buttons, you have to push it and hold it for quite a while before it turns the display off, and then if you push it and hold it again for a while, it will turn it back on, but it works differently on the PNI and the Jopix. So let's have a look at the PNI next. So we're in channel 20, UK FM high. Let's see what we get. So we're getting bang on 4 watts, which is great to see. And then if we switch to low power, it's about 1.75 watts. Now we do have an issue with this radio when it's in the UK norm, in that it will only allow you to switch between CE FM and UK FM. There is no way of getting to the UK AM channels. And in order to do that, you need to push and hold the band button and change it from the UK norm to the EU norm before you can then switch between AM and FM and get the AM 40 channels that we would use in the UK. The Thunderpole is better in that regard because it has 3 modes in the UK norm where the PNI doesn't. So let's now have a look at undertaking an AM test in high power mode, and let's see what we get. So we're getting a little over 4.5 watts, but remember there is background noise that it's picking up. Let's pump in a tone and see what we get. So we're getting about 12 watts there when it's getting the full volume of the tone into the microphone. So next we'll switch to low power. And let's do that again. Carrier test. About 1.7 watts. And a tone test. About 5.5 watts there. So power wise, they're very comparable, the Thunderpole and the PNI. But I do prefer the button layout or the functionality of the buttons on the PNI, in that you can switch quickly and easily between the power modes without having to long press. And the display button, you've got light auto, and if you hold it, you've got light on, and then you've got light off. So that's quite good. I prefer that to the way the Thunderpole does it. But we cannot excuse the PNI for not covering AM and FM on the UK norm. That's really not great, but you can work around it. So we're on channel 20, high power UK FM. Let's have a look and see what we get for power. So we're about 3.5 watts. And in low power, it's about 1.6 watts. And we have exactly the same problem that we had on the PNI, in that you cannot switch to AM when in the UK norm, so we'll have to do the same trick, switch it to EU, and then we can get to AM. And then we'll have a quick look and see on a carrier test in high power. So we're getting about 4 watts there, just a little over 4 watts. And in low power, just over 2 watts there. Let's go back to high power and we'll do a quick tone test. So that's about 10 watts, and we'll switch to low power and see what we get there. Just on 5 watts. So that's the power test. Let's switch back to FM. Now on this radio, the button functionality is slightly different. I like the high-low, that's not long press, but the light, or the backlight, is the same as the Thunderpole. If you push it and hold it for a long time, it will turn it off, and if you push it and hold it for the same long time, it'll turn it on. It doesn't have the auto on and off setting that the PNI has. So the last power test that we're going to do is using the car adapter. Now, when the car adapter is plugged into the radio, it says in the manual that you must disconnect the built-in antenna, the BNC rubber duck that goes on top. Otherwise, you may damage the radio if you operate it with both antennas connected. So please be warned. So let's do this power test, UK FM channel 20, and see what we get. In high power mode, we're getting 3 watts bang on, which is a bit unusual because we were getting a higher output using the built-in antenna. And then we'll switch it to low power mode. And we're getting about 1.5 watts. So we're getting less power output when using the car adapter antenna than we are using the built-in antenna. So what have we learnt so far? I mean, they are the same radio after all, but there are some minor differences between them. The power values are quite difficult to read side on for an old bugger like me, so I'm flashing up a comparison between them after checking them again. The Thunderpole has a tri-state FM UK, FM and AM setting. The long press power and backlight is not as good as the PNI. Has more tables when widebanding, but that is only so that you have US and CA on the screen. The PNI does not have a tri-state UK norm, and you have to switch norms if you want AM. It has a better power and backlight button implementation. The Jopix doesn't have a wideband option and shares the same backlight button functionality as the Thunderpole. The power mode is also a short press, the same as the PNI. It has a slightly lower power output on AM than the TX or the HP82, but only by about 0.5 watts. There are no meaningful power differences between the 3 radios, and the radio you purchase may have a slightly different software version, and some of these minor niggles may have been resolved. Modifying a radio is at your own risk. You will have legal obligations in your region with regards to radio transmissions, licensing and power outputs. You should always ensure that you are not causing a nuisance and, more importantly, not causing any radio interference or distress to others. Please do not break the law in your region. The information provided in this section of the video is intended for countries which have different power output levels. Laws do change, so ensure you have researched the current laws in your region. Now I just need a truncheon. Next, we need to look at programming. You will need a programming cable. You can buy this cable, which is the PNI PSR230, but a standard Bofang UV5R cable will most likely work just as well. We will run through the software and where to get it shortly, but I have seen people warning about bricking the TX when using the PNI software, so we'll be checking that out as I have both versions. With Windows 11, I didn't need to install any software for the cable to be recognised. It just worked, no drivers needed. There is a download link in the bag and the QR code is here should you need it. You plug this end into the radio, just as you would with any Kenwood style programming cable. You plug this end into your computer and turn the radio on. And we'll now switch over to the desktop and have a look at the software. So this is PNI's website and this is the PSR230 programming cable. Having a look on their website, on the download section you'll see there is only the user manual, so you cannot get the software from here. However, if you go to the HP82's page, you'll see if you scroll down there is a download section, and if you click on that you have the RO software, PNI 82, and the link to download that. This is the software you need, so go ahead and download that and put it on your computer. So with the cable plugged in and the radio on, you simply go in and push the R button to read from the radio. And there it has read from the radio on COM4. If you have a COM port connection issue or multiple COM ports, you may need to select the appropriate one at the bottom. but this has now read the Thunderpole TX using the PNI software. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to use the Thunderpole software and see if the values are any different. So here is the Thunderpole software. Looks surprisingly the same. And let's do a read. So you can see the values are exactly the same from side to side. So I would be willing to wager that the PNI software will be able to update just the same as the TX software does. And we will try this a bit later on. So let's now plug it into the PNI and compare both using both pieces of software. So now the PNI is connected. Let's do a read using the PNI software, and we'll do the same with the TX software. And again, you can see the values are exactly the same on both. So let's just do the same for the Jopix. So now we're connected to the Jopix. Let's do a read and a read using the TX software. And again, absolutely identical. So now we're plugged back into the TX, the Thunderpole TX, and we're going to do a read and do the same here. So using both pieces of software, let's just open these up a bit. And we're going to increase the high power mode. So I'm going to use the PNI software for this. So let's go up to the maximum value, which is 255, and let's write that to the radio. Okay, that's written to the radio. Now using the TX software, let's do a read. So that is correct, 255. It doesn't matter whether you use the PNI software or the TX software, they are both reading and writing exactly the same values. So we now need to do a power test on the Thunderpole and see what difference that has made, if any. So this is the expanded power test. Let's have a look at UK FM, channel 20 midband. We're getting about 3.5 watts, which is pretty much the same as we were getting before. Let's go to EU FM. About 4.2 watts, which is pretty much the same as before. And let's do a AM power test with the carrier. About 4.5 watts, and with a tone. We're getting about 10 watts. So adjusting the power in the software has made absolutely no difference whatsoever. Now I know somebody will ask, so I have plugged the car kit back in, and we're going to do the same power tests in expanded mode with the car kit. So UK FM channel 20. We're getting an abysmal 2.6 watts. And then EU FM. We're getting about 3.5 watts. And then over to AM with the carrier test. About 3.7 watts and a tone. That looks like it's about 8.5 watts. So again, we see a power reduction when using the car kit versus the built-in or the top antenna. So in conclusion, is the Thunderpole TX good value for money compared to the Randy 3? Yes, it is. It's been extremely popular due to its low price, and it keeps selling out everywhere. This is good news, as the unit you buy is likely to have the most recent software and won't have been sitting on a shelf for months, unlike my Jopix Throbbing Johnson. The PNI HP82 is about £20 cheaper, and it's just as good in every way, so save yourself some money if you can live with the lack of AM support in UK mode. I much prefer the side button functionality on the HP82, but that's personal choice and both do the job just fine. Power output is a little lacking at around 3.3 watts. My next criticism goes for all three radios, including the Randy. The battery. It's a real faff. You've got to remember to take a screwdriver, you have to undo the screw on the back, remove this little door, then you have a battery with this stupid little clip, and it's just a pain. Now, looking at this, which is a Quansheng radio, extremely cheap, 35 quid. It is a ham radio, but let's just, have a look at this. The battery, it is a simple push button and pull it out, and the battery comes off. You can have 3 or 4 of these batteries charged and ready to go, and it just takes a few seconds to clip it on. And that's a 30 quid radio. My Anytone, fabulous radio this, but of course it's a ham radio. Again, you just push a button on the handset and you pull the battery off. And this battery's huge, and it lasts for absolutely ages. Why can't we have something similar on all of these radios? A decent sized battery on the back, and you can just clip it on and clip it off. The car adapter. What is going on there? Less power compared to the inbuilt antenna. That's just weird. The Randy 3, when expanded, can achieve around 12 watts when powered and using the car adapter. The same behaviour was seen on all 3 radios, so it's not specific to just one unit. The RX receive was excellent, and the NRC works really well. The Thunderpole box says programmable on the side, and yes, it kind of is, but it's pointless as there is little scope for any adjustment. Don't bother buying the cable unless you have a very specific need. So which is better, the Randy 3 or the Thunderpole TX? Well, that's an easy one. The Randy is far more capable and has more features, except for NRC. If you have around £100 to spend, buy the TX. It's great. If you have over £200 to spend, then buy the Randy. It's really that simple. So all in all, a lovely, simple to use, sturdy radio at a good price. But it will be interesting to see how it compares to the President Jerry when that finally arrives. I hope you found the information in this video helpful. If you did, then please help the channel out by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing, and maybe even turn on the notification bell. This really does help to ensure that I can continue to provide good content. Please feel free to buy me a coffee, details are in the description below, and if you have any questions or comments, then you know what to do. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Trolls and nasty know-it-alls can... Anyway, until next time, stay safe, stay happy, and catch you in the next one. I'm reliably informed that escorts use protection, and you'll be happy to see that this PNI Escort has a little rubber johnny on the BNC connector. Excellent!